There is a new facelift for the Skoda Superb, and for the first time there's the Skoda Superb Scout, which we can see right here. So in this review, all about the changes for the Superb, this special off-roadish version, and we've recently also driven the new Passat facelift, so we'll draw a comparison between the Superb and the Passat as well, especially in the driving comments, and everything you need to know in exterior, interior and the driving experience here on Autogefühl. Please join us in Full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go. There are three major design changes in the front with the Superb facelift for all versions. First of all, the front grille gets this dual fin design. First of all, there was just one, and here the Scout especially gets a dark one. Same with the SportLine. I'll soon also show that to you. Then the second change is that the headlamps, they go through as it would be one element now with the front grille. Before that there was basically a gap right there. And new technology, LED is now standard, and optional you can get a matrix LED light and also for a special high beam function. And the third change is the lower spoiler for all versions, and the Scout especially gets a contrast here in silver that looks pretty cool, I think. Has this off-roadish look and a little bit more ground clearance by the way here, so both when you have a base suspension and the DCC, the Scout is always 50 millimeters higher. 4 meters 86, 15 foot 9 or 191 inches is the length of the Skoda Superb, and in the side profile the facelift has not changed much. It's just about this Scout version that adds this new styling with the contrasting plastic right here in the side lower, and also the plastic fenders to get this off-road look, together that the suspension is a little bit higher. By the way, if you're more interested in the SportLine, that one is either 50 millimeters lower with the normal sport suspension, or if you go for a DCC, it's 10 millimeters lower. The DCC is standard for the SportLine in Germany, by the way. Then this one here, the spec to the Scout, rims are 18-inch. This case here also, and option you can also get 19-inch, but I think this one here is already a quite good size. Also silver contrasting mirror caps and a Scout badge right there. Do you think this look works for the car? I was already quite keen on the Passat all-track, and I think this look also works for the Superb, doesn't it? So far, both for the Estate and the Limousine, you had the Skoda badge right there in the center part. Now there's a Skoda lettering that looks maybe a little bit more posh. Then the tail lamps, they are still in this crystalline shape. Very beautiful work here, also quite sharp elements as for the design language. And the lower bumper has also been redesigned, especially for the Scout, since this version here has not been here before. And I'm not sure if this one is really pretending to be an exhaust. Does it? Maybe it's a transition to a form where they do not even pretend anymore it would be an exhaust. It has those silver contrast elements. Doesn't look too bad. Is this a fake exhaust? Well, of course, it's just a beauty element. The real exhaust is underneath. But I think this still works. Or what do you think? And here you can see the car, first of all, in white, and how the new facelifted front grille looks like when it's not the Scout version. There you can see how they change from this one vertical to the double vertical fin, and here then also with this chrome accentuation. This was different in the Scout version you've just seen. And in contrast to this again, this one here is the SportLine, and the same as for the Scout, the SportLine has the darkened out front grille right there to give it a sportier touch. But then it does not have the contrasting plastic accentuations here, also the wheel arches in the vehicle color to again stress the sporty note. And also black wheels in here, again to go in more this, sporty direction overall. I think it works also quite well with the vehicle. We had this one here in the full review also with the pre-facelift version, if you want to tune into that later as well. And my personal design favorite for today is this one here, a lava blue Superb in the Scout package. So it has this off-roadish look. And with the lava blue, the gray contrast here, the silver contrast work even better, I think. Did you ever wonder, by the way, lava blue? Why lava blue? Well, there is a state of, when the lava comes out, a special temperature state where it indeed seems to be blue. That's why they picked that color for that. So what's your favorite color or trim for today? Would you go for a Scout, a normal one, or would you go for a SportLine? Tell us. And there's still the Estate, the Combi, and also here the Sedan available. So this rather classic shape. However, you might know that this one is rather a fastback. So I think it looks quite elegant from the exterior, especially here with the SportLine now. So the dark accentuations together with this matte grey finish, that looks quite sporty for a car that is not really known for being very sporty. And of course, very interesting how the trunk area evolves there with the sedan style car, because that's still more practical than with a usual sedan. And a quick look here at the sedan with this fastback style again. You see there's a difference than instead going like this in a very distinctive step. Rather has this floating effect, and in the SportLine there's also the additional black wing that fits very well. And later on we also compared from the inside, how is it Estate versus Sedan. This is the car key. There's also keyless entry. Put your hand on the outside to close it. Then you can see also the mirrors flip in. And put your hand on the inside to open it. Door closing sound. Pretty solid, I like that. Then inside of the door, soft touch here on the top part. Then there's a new decor element available. This one is a more rather subtle one. For the Scout, you can also exclusively get a wood look decor. We also have a shot of those. You can take a look at that. Then continue with this vehicle here. There's a red cover on the inside of the doors. Automatic window levers and a lot of space at the inside of the doors. Oh, and there's the Canton sound system, optional one. It has a very decent sound. I like it. Tested it earlier too. Then there's a Superb entry badge in the lower area. And since this one here is the Scout, we have special Scout seats. They start with a special seat form as it is right now, but then with fabric. I would recommend the base one. It's cheaper, and then optionally you can get this Alcantara insert. So it also looks fancy. It's giving you a little bit more premium touch to it, but the Scout fabric seats are also pretty cool, and they are keeping a little bit cooler in summer even than the Alcantara, by the way. But it's good that they have both non-animal skin choices. However, they say that with this seat here, there would be some animal parts still. So, but no one knows, like this could be, and this leatherette, or this, and I don't know, it's like, or like this part maybe real, and this one from leatherette, but you cannot differentiate it. It all feels the same, it looks the same, but it is said that it's somehow a mix from those parts they left here, just as a detailed info. This one is also the electric seat with memory support, so 3 memory positions, very interesting. And overall the seating comfort is really nice. You know that this one here sits a little bit higher, 50 millimeters, and do you feel it very much while seating? Well, not that much, but the seat itself is really cool. As for the comfort, I somehow prefer the SportLine seat, which is even a little bit wider for taller people. So I'll soon show you that one once more again, SportLine seat. We have that here also on location, but also we had the full review of the SportLine car in another video. We will link that. But this one here is already quite good, so the seating position is really cool, very comfortable, and when I put it in the lowest position with 1.86 m or 6'1", then we still have some headroom left, although we have the panoramic roof here. If you leave the panoramic roof out, you gain some like this headroom even more. But since this is also already a quite spacious car, you're fine with it. And that's also what I liked about the Superb. You have so much room here around you, and you really have a comfort like a segment above, but without paying double the price. And this is the SportLine interior. You can see you get those sport seats, also all with Alcantara, a little bit wider also in the upper shoulder area. Those are also a very beautiful choice. By the way, Skoda cars are always characterized by a lot of different cubby holes, and one is here. Well, it's not dampened, but I think we can live with that. And then, for example, there's also a credit card holder right here on the right side. Interior overview with the Superb Facelift, soft touch here at the top dashboard. Then again, I would really go for the matte wood inlet style, visual style for the Scout. That looks really cool. We already seen it with the Kodiaq Scout, for example. Here, a rather subtle look if you prefer that one. There's a huge glove box, by the way, also available, and it's also cooled. Then you either get an 8-inch screen standard without GPS, then the same 8-inch with GPS. And this one here is the top 9.2-inch. This one is without any buttons then. So you can also argue to go for the smaller screen to save money and to have still a physical button. Here everything is done with the capacitive buttons, here with the volume, but you can also control the volume at the steering wheel. That's of course, better solution while driving. CarPlay integration, Android Auto is also available, not wirelessly yet, like with the Passat. They did not receive that update. There you get back to the normal screen right there. This is the home screen. You also have those gesture controls right there in this version then. And when we take a look at the GPS, it, zooms in and out quite well. But if you take a look at our driving part, sometimes we were a little bit messed up from the software. Maybe it depends on the situation here traffic-wise with the motorways. Or maybe we didn't have it like zoomed in enough. Checked it out later in the driving part. But overall, it has a quite good visualization as we take a look at here. And it's always recommended to have it in the digital instruments anyway, then you can see it a little bit better. You can also configure yourself a home screen, then you can set up, what else you want to have here as a shortcut, for example, directly then back to the CarPlay. So what's also interesting is that here in the lower part, if we go out back again, this one here, quite often it's hard packed with cars because, your knee is hitting this part. But here it's soft touch, and that's really good when you touch it with your knee, so very well done as for that. In the front lower part here, there's this cover, and then there's one USB supply and 12-volt power supply, and the phone box for the inductive charging has also been enlarged. I can test it right here. So remove the phone with the cable and just put it here in the front. So this is more than enough space also for new bigger phones, and now it's starting to charging mobile phone and storage trays, also says. So that's possible. In the front, the USB connector does work with the CarPlay or the Android Auto. Then DSG shifting lever we have here in the front. There's also a driving mode selector where you can pick the different driving modes. We tell you more about it when we drive the car. And then in the front, there's some two cup holders, and also interesting that, you could be 3 cup holders also, depending on how you use them. And when you put this bottle here in the middle part, you can see it has this structure here at the bottom, and then it has those dots in the lower part of the holder, and then you can put them in there, and then it's being held tight, and with one hand you can open this bottle. So this is an interesting solution, definitely. Base is still analog instruments here for the Superb. Option then this new 10.25-inch digital screen. And by the way, if someone discovered the check engine light, it's as always with all single Volkswagen AG vehicles, Seat, Audi, Volkswagen, Skoda and so on. Check engine light on when the ignition is running is okay. As soon as the engine is on, it disappears, and then everything is okay. So when the ignition is just on, it just tells you that the lamp is working. Well, it's not a real logical one, I think, but people always wonder about that. So now here again, digital instrument, you can have different views. You can have this GPS all full around there. You can have some, side information there. You can also have a big RPM meter in the middle one. Well, that's a good thing about those digital instruments. You're quite flexible about what you want to show, what you want to see. On the steering wheel, by the way, you've already seen the SportLine steering wheel, which is perforated and the lower part is flattened out. I really prefer the SportLine steering wheel. But here, just from the functionality, volume here on the... Whoa, seen that one? So the clicking here in the middle part, so just from the volume button is really high class build quality wise, but the stuff around it, you see here, that shakes a little bit. They should probably work on that. Not sure if it's like one of the very early vehicles they produce here from the facelift. We'll keep you updated if that's also the case with other vehicles or so on. Yeah, and on the right side you can change the view for the display as we've just shown you. Extra button for assistance systems, and then also again more controls for the central infotainment screen. For example, if you want to zoom in and out of the map. Here the right side, by the way, is a little bit better attached as for this one. And you can also adjust the whole steering wheel up and down, and also in reach. And let me show you the optional panoramic roof right here. There's a shade for hot days. I also like that the ceiling is all bright. By the way, for the SportLine and for the LNK sadly only features animal skin seats, but for LNK and SportLine you can also get an Alcantara ceiling now, which is also quite fancy. And here we can also open the whole stuff. Here we go. And that, brings a lot of light in this interior. Really cool option. And by the way, one information additional just for the lower trim specs. So in the normal, like also in the middle trim, like Style, for example, or in the Active, the entry trim level, you also get new seating materials now, just fabric ones, but they're also a little bit more spiced up. So also more has been done for the entry level version. I think that's also very important because not always everyone is going for the highest spec. And now what's under the middle armrest? First of all, you can put it a little bit higher, and fix it. And by the way, shake test here is very well attached. Then you can pull it all the way up like this. And then you have another USB connection right there, some space. Oh, and then there's like a cooling system right here. And it's really getting everything very cool, if you like. By the way, this one here is also working for the Apple CarPlay connection. So this is not only a charger, but also has a data connection. And last but not least, there's even this, additional, for whatever you want to use it. And also new with the facelift, there's no single version where you put the key anymore. You always get, by standard equipment, this start, stop engine button. So you're always keyless as for this one. And I already have some information for you what will be happening after this facelift. So first, when the PHEV comes, the plug-in hybrid, that will then also feature the new MIB3 infotainment building platform by the Volkswagen AG, and then we'll introduce the wireless CarPlay, what we've recently seen with the Passat facelift. So then, when the PHEV comes, also for the whole model range available. And after that, then the next change, like a year later or so, then the Superb will also receive the capacitive steering wheel of the Passat, which then realizes that you are holding onto the steering wheel just by touching, not by moving it, which will play a major role, as we can see later in the driving part. And the rear compartment is where the Superb always gets even more interesting. Look at that. Wow, so much legroom. And it's still not the longest car on the market. They just use the space very well, all that they have. Here also with the Alcantara setup. In this case, that should be all leather red, I think, then, which is less of that. And the fabric seats, of course, would be in the same style as the front seats, and also if you go for this base version. Here at the inside of the doors, there's this soft touch top part, also very well processed. Very good build quality. When I step inside, you can see, this is almost like no other vehicle, and at least of this size. And we have even cars which are way longer. So if you think about like those BMW 5 Series, Mercedes E-Class, Audi A6, which are the same length on the exterior, and then their legroom stops here. And that's what you have here. So, and that is when I'm driving as a tall driver. That's really superb. So headroom here, well, it does still fit for me with this panoramic roof. I will soon also show you a comparison sedan in the rear with the headroom and also the Estate without the panoramic roof. Then you will see here I can still put a hand over my head, but when I don't have the panoramic roof, it's like this in the Estate and like this in the sedan. So that's a difference, but it still fits. And well, it's somehow also cool to have the panoramic roof. Other than that, it's, you know, nice upright seating position here also in the rear. You can put the head restraint up. So also a lot of room. You have ISOFIX at the outside seats. You flip the seats from here in a 1/3, 2/3 split. Then there's this middle armrest also, where you can fold up those cup holders. They're not adaptive though. You can use this one here also as a ski hatch to load things through. That's possible. Sitting in the middle part here with the middle tunnel, you know, potential all-wheel drive vehicle. This one here does have. You have to put your feet next to it, but still that somehow does work. This, by the way, a handy solution here also to control this front seat here from the rear. So as Jonas, our giant from the team, was sitting here on the co-driver's side, I can put it to the front to make it a little bit more comfortable here for me in the rear. There is also a rear climate unit available optionally here with colder and also with seat heating if you want that, but it's an option. And 2 more USB supplies in the lower part together with a real power socket. And as you can see, it indeed also works here for a MacBook charger. So it exactly fits. Quite often we see those solutions where it doesn't work space-wise, but here it does work, so also pretty well thought out. Here there's an iPad holder, so that's available. You can adapt it to different sizes here. So yeah, I mean, I'm always a little bit skeptical about this one because in case of a crash, that might hurt you. So I would rather probably leave that out. And what about the headroom comparison here, sedan and Estate? So this is the sedan without panoramic roof, and that still leaves me headroom, again, 1m86 or 6'1". Let's check it out with the Estate. So it was like this with the sedan, and here, yeah, it's a little bit more with the Estate without the panoramic roof. But still, you know, it's not a big limitation with the sedan. You can open the hatch either with pressing on the key, then you can press it here, or you can use this foot kick opening mechanism. Meanwhile, those systems work very reliable also, you've seen that just. And almost 2,000 liters is the maximum setup here for the capacity if you flip the seats. But this, I also want to show you that here the cover, when I open the trunk, it automatically goes back the first step. So that's a good system. Also rails at the side. When you press twice, it goes even further, and we have put some luggage in here. We could push it even further, but I'll show you quite soon why that wasn't possible in this case. I have to remove something first. And one thing is, you see there are also some blind buttons right here. So there is a possibility to flip the seats from here. Not exactly sure why this car is not equipped with that at the moment, but it is definitely available. Maybe because it's one of the very first vehicles, maybe it's an option. That's strange. I always thought it would be like a serial equipment. So that's, you know, the luggage setup. And one more interesting thing already to show you here. This one here is quite funny. They go, well, what's that split? But then you can see the symbol there. And you can put this one up actually to get the towing hook out. That's really funny. And then you have to pull it again to get it back in again. I mean, why not? It's a manual system, so not everything has to be electric. And here we have a direct comparison with the Estate, with the Combi and with the sedan. Pretty interesting as for the shape, isn't it? So I think both are well done design-wise. But what about the interior? Both hatches, and again, you can see this fastback style right here. So with the Estate, you see the loading still is not that high. And of course, you have very square dimensions. And of course, you have this height here. That's, you know, a special thing. And if we then take a look at the sedan right there, wow, this is also enormous. It goes a little bit lower right here. There's also a replacement tire. And you also have the same square dimension. It's just that you're limited in the height right here in the front. But still, this is like an Estate trunk for some other vehicles. And in liter figures, very interesting, it's 625 liters for this one here against 660 liters for the Estate. and the estate leads it with 1,950 liters in the maximum setup against a 1,760 liters with the sedan. So in liter figures you do not lose too much, and the reason for that is also because the liter figures are always measured below this top cover. Therefore the estate is in liter figures wise just a little bit better, but you can see again the biggest difference is in the height right there. So for example, if you want to put in a mountain bike or something like with very long handlebars or so, but that would probably still work with this one. So one of the cars that is actually best usable even still as a sedan. So as for engines, all 4-cylinder, no matter what you pick, petrol, diesel and a new plug-in hybrid. So as petrol side there's a 1.5 TSI, 150 horsepower, then a 2-liter TSI, 190 or 272 horsepower. Then there's an entry 1.6 TDI, diesel, 120 horsepower, and a 2-liter TDI, 150 or 190 horsepower. The one you can see also right here, together with all-wheel drive, front plus rear, with a Haldex clutch, and also the DSG. So the top engines always combine all-wheel drive and DSG, and also the Scout here is only available with all-wheel drive and DSG combination, and also just in the 2 top horsepower specs, diesel and petrol. And there will be the new 1.4 TSI plug-in hybrid, 218 horsepower system output, 13 kilowatt hour battery, 55 kilometers of pure electric range. So we will test the plug-in hybrid also in a separate review. Looking forward for that very soon. Today here with a 2-liter TDI, the top trim spec, and this car here, especially in Germany, is predominantly bought with diesel still, because it is also used, from a lot of people who drive a lot of kilometers per year. And there will be a very interesting consumption figure also for this one here today. Look out for that. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge with the Skoda Superb Facelift, and in this case also the Superb Scout. Used iteration then of this one. Again, you might remember it from earlier, 15 millimeters higher from the suspension, no matter if you go for the base suspension or if you go for the DCC, which is equipped with this vehicle. And indeed with all the Volkswagen Group vehicles, it is recommended to go for the DCC, for the adaptive suspension, because it definitely delivers more comfort. With some other manufacturers, sometimes it doesn't make the biggest difference, but here indeed you have a comfort gain. Although I have to say, if you want the best price performance ratio, so if you want just a lower price, the normal suspension will do fine, so you won't have a bad suspension then at all, so that's totally okay. It's just that we can definitely say that you have more comfort than with the DCC. And you're also a little bit more flexible, because you can change it a little bit between comfort and also with the, when you want to have a little bit. No, sorry, I have to go here. So yeah, I cannot put the GPS here in the center edition, because you might see it already on the small camera. It does flicker a little bit. It's not in real life, it's just flickering on camera. And there was another guy who was missing the motorway. It's quite confusing here. And so I only have it on the big. Does it flicker on the big screen here? That's good. Okay, but so this one here does not flick on camera, but the other one does. Always has to do like with the hertz rate they're running on. But of course we'll keep you updated as for that. So we head onto the motorway, because this car is a car that is very often used on the motorway, and it's about this calmness in the drive too. It is being used as the fleet vehicle quite often, so when you're going a lot of kilometers per year, that's very interesting. And we already feel that here right now, so driving about 80 kilometers an hour, and it's super silent. The noise insulation is really very well done. And we also show you some acceleration. We can go to the different driving mode. For example, we can go to Sport. Then we have the DSG, the dual clutch transmission, set on lower gear, so we have more acceleration. And let's see, we can drop down to about 60 and then accelerate it out. Let's see what that brings us. it's 130 kilometers. So it was 60 to 130 kilometers, and that's quite decent. The car remained relatively silent. All the torque from this diesel was being applied. Driving here the top horsepower spec, the 190 horsepower 2-liter diesel, also with the all-wheel drive, so especially in this acceleration situation, also torque is being sent to the rear wheels. It's a front plus rear concept. And it was also a very smooth transition, and you see also the DSG was shifting pretty well. So let's go to the normal mode, because, well, you can also experience some suspension changes. Here, when we just stay in the sport mode, see the car is still also in the sport mode, rather soft as for the suspension, so we also feel it here in the lane change. It leans a little bit in, but it's okay when it's set on the softer tone, that's totally fine. If we go to the normal mode or even the comfort mode, it should be even softer. Let's wait for that car. So then it's over. Yeah, see that it leans way more in. So for sometimes, sometimes I rather say stick in the comfort or normal, but with this vehicle, probably the sport mode will also do just fine as for suspension setting. And remember that this one here is 50 millimeters put up, so you feel a so short difference. It's not huge. We had it recently with the Passat Alltrack. It's not that you would drive a totally different car, but you do feel again that the car is set more on a comfortable note and not that much on a sporty note. And if you also compare with this one here, the Superb with the Passat, you do feel that the Superb is softer as for suspension, more for relaxed driving. The Passat is, I would say, more fun to drive. But this one here is still a very good car, so it's not, would say like this is bad or bad, this is better, this is worse or something. It's just a little different as for setup. So Passat, a little bit stiff, a little bit more fun to drive, a little bit more agile, and the Superb even more set on a relaxing tone, especially here with the Scout. And I somehow like it also when the suspension is a little bit higher. You don't go directly SUV, but you have something more than with a normal car, set a little bit higher and so on. So, that's, why not? Why not, definitely. So now at 100 kilometers an hour, and we also have upgraded assistance systems, lane assist. The ACC is also put in here, still with a separate column, so I can set it also right there. So now I've set the adaptive cruise control, and they also upgraded, for example, the pedestrian and cyclist recognition for the front radar. Also, when for the side assist. So what you can have for this vehicle is also this blind spot monitor, and that is now also working with cyclists that are coming from behind. That is of course a pretty useful option, and that's not put in this vehicle here at the moment, because otherwise we would have had it here in the side mirrors. So this side assist, the blind spot monitor, would be an option I would definitely go for. I can just recommend you to do this. Then let's see how this lane keeping assist works. You see here it keeps me in the lane. That works quite well. You see also the car is staying in the middle. Of course, please do not take your hands off the steering wheel. This is just showcase here at the moment in this environment for you. Then also car said please take over the steering again, so it's not meant to do that. I just want to show you that the system actually works. However, I felt some other cars, also in the Passat, it was a little bit more refined as for the steering, how it's reacting, because when you have the lane assistance in, then the steering here feels a little bit numb in those very low degree angles. Oh, this was very interesting too. One of the next upgrades here with the facelift is, when you have picked the extensive driving assistant package, the ACC now works predictive. So I did not reduce the speed here. The map data was telling us in advance there will be reduced speed for 80, and then the ACC was already reducing it here for the speed cameras. That's pretty cool. So far it was that it's working, for example, with traffic sign recognition, then reducing the speed, but here now also for fuel saving reasons, it can realize what's coming ahead with map and camera data together, and then already reduce the speed before. Or for example, when the car knows there's a steep downhill coming, then already before you hit the mountain crest, then it already reduces speed before, because then again, you know, it knows that you don't need any acceleration by going down it. And then you can save some more fuel. Now in this case, traffic sign recognition worked, and now again reducing the speed. So in a like accelerating braking sense, this car is basically driving on its own, and it's also keeping itself in the lane. So this is what we call semi-autonomous driving, even though in a total sense autonomous is either 0 or 1, so you would rather say semi-automated driving if you want to be correct from the from this, you know, expression. And this is, I would say, a high level 2 drive from the, you know, levels of autonomous driving. You can also see a separate video about the you know, the different levels there. We did that earlier. Well, here on the motorway, it's a very, very good motorway car. It's silent, it's confident. With this long wheelbase, it really keeps you very well in the track. The assistance systems work flawlessly. So one of the very, very good Autobahn vehicles. And one of your earlier question was also, this is a car that is based on a mid-size car. Well, MQB is actually even a compact platform. Do you feel that? Yeah, at some point you do feel that. That's the very subjective feeling, you know. So you sit pretty much in the front. There's a short hood in the front there, because it's just transverse engine mount, only the 4-cylinder engines. Therefore you sit really much in the front of the car, and then you also just feel from your car experience meter that you have a lot of space behind you in the back. And you do feel the difference when you, for example, let's say driving a Mercedes E-Class, where the hood is longer, you sit more, you know, in relation to the whole length of the car, you sit more behind. So that feels a little bit sportier, more balanced, for example. This one here, however, we've seen in the interior part, makes more sense as for the usage of space overall. You know, you can argue pro and con. So from a logical sense, from a using of space sense, also from the confidence and the calmness and the comfort of the drive, you can say this can be a half-price alternative to a Mercedes E-Class, BMW 5 Series, and so on, to those upper mid-size segment vehicles. Lengthwise, interior space-wise, yes, definitely. And such a more clever choice. The other ones there are so super expensive, and this one is not. But you still feel, of course, some of the differences, especially as for the whole platform, the whole concept of the vehicle. And that's also no wonder. The question is, what is really important to you? They also did some updates here with the engines, also with the particle filters, for example. Diesel is still very strong with this vehicle, and it also has a diesel particle filter. So the thing is, you know, after the diesel scandal, so much bad things happened there. I mean, did you recently read that Audi still continued selling those cheated diesels in 2018? I mean, what the hell? Like, what the? It's like, can't believe that. But now really the new ones that are being sold with the integrated particle filters and all the upgraded stuff and the SCR cleaning, of course. This is the most important change, so that they all have the SCR cleaning. Those are really relatively clean, you know. So electric cars will always be cleaner, but just locally, you know. That's of course the big discussion in the moment. Yeah, take over steering, drive in the center of your lane. I think I did that. So you can see there are also some false positives here from this surveillance of the assistance system. So, well, and the good thing about the diesel here, especially if you're going for longer runs, we've been here on the motorway. I resetted the consumption meter and I was just using cruise control and keeping it rather calm. So I reset it after our acceleration. And now I can score as low as 4 liters on 100 kilometers. That's of course amazing, especially for a vehicle at this side. Oh, this truck wants to get over. Crossing at the moment River Danube. Very beautiful. Close to Vienna. So 4 liters on 100 kilometers. for this size of a vehicle, that's just fantastic, you know. And that shows, you know, although I'm not like the biggest fan of diesel or whatever, that, you know, we are still in this transition period, and for this car here, and do I have to go off here or the next one? Further? This one seems good, right? Yeah. Is it? Or maybe not. I think I'm wrong, right? Oh, well, doesn't matter. So we have some more driving for you then. Yeah, it's pretty confusing here with those different motorway ways when you've never been around in this particular motorway region. And now I think it wants to go left, I think, right? Does it? No, straight and then, yeah, interesting. Yeah, but the thing is, with this vehicle you can keep calm all the time. It's really so relaxing to drive this one here. It really calms you down with a good seating position, good noise insulation, everything is really silent. What I want to test still is, you know, here when I have the assistance systems mounted, I told you that the base steering feel is a little bit numb. So I can also deactivate some of the stuff. So I have here this button for the assistance systems, and then I can deactivate the lane assist. Oh, that's a strange traffic. Oh, that one works. So now I've deactivated it. Yeah, that's indeed already better. So the steering is still somewhat soft, and you don't need much strength in it. It also depends on the driving mode. But when you have deactivated the lane assist, then you don't have this rather strange or numb feeling in the steering wheel. So again, it's quite soft. It's not super direct, but it still gives you a decent feeling. You see here I have to steer some, yes. Let's see how that difference here when I'm going in sport mode. Yeah, you have more resistance then from the steering wheel in sport mode. Just gets a little bit stiffer. Then, normal mode, yeah, that's softer then. So you can vary that a little bit with the driving modes too. You also have the individual driving mode, for example, when you say, I want to keep it with the calm shifting, but I want a different steering experience. I want the suspension to be set on a certain node. So you can also change that with the individual settings. But I think, you know, this car is not set on a super sporty node. The SportLine has a sporty node definitely, as for suspension and also with the steering input. So that was also pretty cool. Steering wheel, definitely I prefer that one from the SportLine. Has this flat bottom, also a bigger grip. This one here also looks a little bit more boring just from the visual perspective. And I think the steering wheel always changes a lot with how you interact with the vehicle. It's where you touch the vehicle, literally. So that's why I also like those Alcantara steering wheels, for example, because they make the car more, you know, more responsive to you somehow in a way. You know, that's how I would describe it. But here, this is like, it looks pretty old school. The steering wheel is pretty like normal, and so the SportLine steering wheel really gives, you know, another touch to the whole vehicle. So again, we can conclude from the driving. Wow, it's so silent here. If you stand still, we hear nothing. So insulation great, very calm, especially when running straight. It's not a sportiest vehicle, especially not in the Scout. But then again, the Scout gives you, a little bit more elaborate feeling here. DCC, not a must-have. But if you decide for some options, DCC and blind spot monitor should be among your top priority. Steering is still quite good. It could be a little bit more progressive. But then again, it's soft and easy to control. And when you deactivate the lane assist, it's also not with any, numb area. When the lane assist is activated, I think they could work on that. That feels a little bit more natural. With the new Passat facelift, they managed to do that, but they also paid probably more attention to that because they had so much bad experience with the Touareg and so many customers complaining that they paid even more attention to do that even better with the Passat. And last but not least, here with the diesel, excellent consumption figure, excellent fuel consumption if you keep it really low. What we do now is also vary the speed a little bit and also go some countryside roads to give you a final overall consumption figure. This one here was the minimum consumption. We will now take a look at how it will be now in a more realistic mix, but it's already quite clear this is a very powerful engine, but you can still drive it in a very, very economical way. So overall, a lot of good things today. Say again once more from the Superb. The only thing, you do feel, again, it's a compact segment platform. You sit very much in the front. You have a lot of things behind you, and you have to get used to that. So it's not the most sporty, agile feeling because of this fact that you sit so close to the front axle. Maybe it's not the case that you would feel that very much when you are not driving so many different vehicles. But oh, that's an interesting color, also for older A5. But when you've driven so many different vehicles, you more realize those small differences, and that's one thing you can, for example, feel here with the Superb. But overall, it still, especially considering the price, still delivers what the name holds. And now some countryside driving and also more about the consumption meanwhile. So we're now at 5.6 liters per 100 kilometers with some more normal natural driving, so to say, not only going on minimum consumption, but that's still more than 40 mpg US and more than 50 mpg UK. So that's still a decent result. By the way, you might remember from the Passat review where we had the bi-turbo top diesel with 240 horsepower, which is not available for this one here. And that one was 1 to 2 liters more in the fuel consumption than this one here. So the single turbo diesel obviously way more efficient than this bi-turbo diesel. And if you compare it to a petrol engine, you also save somewhat, at least 2 liters on 100 kilometers if you stick with the diesel here. Then the question is, if you drive a lot of kilometers per year, then it makes sense to go with the diesel. If not, you can also stick with the petrol. Here for the Scout, also only the top petrol engine is available. One thing I also noticed is I deactivate the lane assist meanwhile, because here it wouldn't be a problem. But on the motorway now, we had like later on off camera a motorway part where it was going straight and straight and straight and straight, and I hardly moved the steering wheel. And here they still have a motion sensor with the steering wheel. With the Passat facelift, they moved it up to a capacitive steering wheel so that it's controlled with a touch. And the reason for that is when you have those, and especially also think about like US motorways or something, and then you have the problem that when you're going straight, the car with this system here does not know you're still there. When you just keep keeping it like tight like this. Yeah, and so it was warning me all the time then, although I had my hands at the steering wheel. And at some point, it also initiates an automatic brake, like just a brief of a second to wake you up. It's like, maybe you've fallen asleep. And I was of course shocked by that because I was still awake, so yeah. So not quite happy with those false negatives or false positives, however you want to call them, with the assistance systems. As for the lane keeping assist, all the other assistance systems, pretty good. And then there's one more thing here with the steering wheel offset. I had that all, the same was in the Skoda Octavia. So when you look at the dashboard here, and when I'm going straight, it doesn't make the impression as everything would be in line. Do you know what I'm saying? So especially when you look at it from this camera, sometimes I have the feeling it should be like this, but then you see I go off to the right side. But when I want to go straight, it's more like I have the feeling I have to steer a little bit left offset than the dashboard would be. So it can also be just a design reason how dashboard and steering wheel are placed to each other. It does not have to be a technological offset. But then again, it's just what you see and experience as a customer. So I think this one could be something they could address then maybe with the all-new generation. It's just slightly, but it's also, you know, those very small nuances we also feel and try to explain to you here with our... What's this? I mean... yeah. That's life and that stuff happens. Yeah, but you know, besides the steering offset, the thing that you feel that you sit very much in the front of the car, and also this lane keeping assist, those are the things you can criticize at this vehicle. Other than that, I can just stress again, you know, fuel consumption is fine with this diesel. It gives me such a confident and calm driving, and it is, you know, still one of my favorite cars if you look at price performance. Aren't those sunflowers beautiful? Just love to look at them, because if you think about it, they always lean towards the sun and they always smile. Maybe something where we humans can also learn from. And what can we learn from today's review of the Skoda Superb Facelift, and especially here the Skoda Superb Scout? Well, first of all, the big thing about this car is, you know, it's the length, even a little bit shorter than one of the upper mid-size segment vehicles. It's half the price, but it offers more space on the interior. That has remained the same. In other news, a new face, and I think it's a little bit more integrated because the headlamps now lead over to the front grille, and also new technology, new LED technology for the front grille. The new Scout version, I think, also fits to the vehicle. I like those all-track or all-road versions for the cars. It's something more spiced up. It doesn't change anything majorly for the off-road features. Yeah, it's not a real off-road vehicle, but it just looks somehow a little bit more interesting. On the interior, there's in most parts a solid build quality. We've shown you a lot of highlights. Well, here and there maybe they can also upgrade some, but we've shown you all in detail then in the interior part. It was very interesting. Also new seating materials, especially for the lower trim levels. Did not have a chance to take a look at that today, but really looking forward to do that in the future. But also nice seats here with the Scout we have here today, and I personally prefer the SportLine seats. Then also new infotainment system upgrades. Nice software on there. You don't have to go for the biggest one. I think the 8-inch would also do just fine. Driving-wise, it's still a very refined and calm experience. Also nice fuel consumption we could score today. Yeah, the lane keeping assist, that could be a little bit more refined. That, for example, was better in the VW Passat facelift recently. So if you ask me, direct comparison, the Passat facelift and the Superb facelift, the Passat is a little bit more refined, especially now in a technological sense. They are still very, related, yes. And the Passat all-track, direct comparison to the Superb Scout, the Passat still drives sportier, a little bit more agile, whereas the Superb has more space on the inside. And if you compare this one here against other competitors, it's really hard to pick, a lot of competitors of this car, because depending on, do you compare price, do you compare the platform, or do you compare the interior space? Well, but with the price range, about 25,000 to 40,000, it is still a very decent offering and one of the best price performance vehicles on the market still. So, thank you so much for tuning in. Please also tune in next time and also watch the other videos linked in the video description and in the pinned comment.